Hi everyone, I'm Dave Verhagen along with
Frank Gaskell.
and this is how to build your dream practice. We're starting DreamPractice.com and we'll have all kinds of resources for you about how to build your dream practice. Today we're going to give you the 7 keys to building your dream practice. Frank and I are going to lay out the 7 keys and we're going to just talk about what we've done in line with building our dream practice and how you can use these ideas to build your own dream practice. So we've got 7 keys, and the first key looks like this. The first thing you want to do when you build a practice is that you want to create a culture. All organizations have cultures.
Right.
Whether you want a culture, whether you think you have a culture or not, you have a culture. And all organizations, whether they're 3 people in the organization, whether they're 8,000 people in the organization, there is a culture to that organization. So the first thing that you want to do is think about what kind of culture you want to create. You need to be very intentional with your culture. And so what we did before we started Southeast Psych, and that's the practice that we have helped build in Charlotte. We've got about 30 clinicians there.
I think we're up to 34 now.
34. And what we did before we even opened the doors is we said, what do we want our mission to be?
Right.
And what do we want the values of the place to be? And the top value for us was fun. So we wanted to have fun. And even right now we're filming live in Orlando. We are following a game show that we just did here in Orlando. And so what we want to communicate in our culture is fun. And that might not be the culture or the value you want to communicate, but you're going to communicate some value in your culture.
Right.
And so this is your first and your greatest priority and your first and greatest challenge is you want to shape a culture intentionally. And that's going to be shaped by your mission, it's going to be shaped by your values, it's going to be shaped by being very, very intentional. And if you don't pay attention to your culture, it's going to get away from you, and it's going to go in some direction. Right?
And if you don't guard it, you don't make that your number one priority, it'll go in directions you never expected, and it can not necessarily be the demise of your practice, but it will alter it and make it not what your dream was.
That's right. So what if you could have one takeaway from this, and we've got multiple takeaways, but one takeaway is to make sure that you create a culture in a very intentional way. There was a book that came out written by Seth Godin, and he called it Purple Cow. And it's an intriguing title, and the idea is that you're driving along and you see a bunch of cows on the side of the road, and they're all brown cows, and all of a sudden you see a purple cow. And that cow stands out, and you're like, how did that purple cow get here?
Right.
Why is there a purple cow? Your mind just starts going about the purple cow. And he says, if you want to be a business that stands out, be a purple cow. Be a distinctive thing where you're creating a culture that's different, a thing that is different. And so you want to be a purple cow that is unique. He says that being just like everybody else sounds like it would be safe, but it's actually risky because you just blend in.
One of the many.
You're one of the herd.
And it can also be scary to be the purple cow, because even here at APA we are a purple cow, and you tend to be the obvious mark, and you have to be willing to go out there and take that risk, and be that purple cow.
That's it. So for us, we've intentionally created a culture, and the values that we have are FIRE. Now I'm not telling you to have these as your own values, but I'll tell you what our FIRE values are: fun, innovation, relationships, and excellence. That's FIRE. And for us, fun comes first. But here's what I would say. You need to make it fit you. In other words, if your personality is one that isn't necessarily a fun personality or
like all out there,
whatever, shape a culture based on what you value personally from a personal and business standpoint, and what would fit you and what would shape you. But be very intentional with that. Shape it in an intentional way and make it fit you. So the first key to building your dream practice is to intentionally create a culture.
Right. Second key to building a dream practice, and again, this is your dream practice, it's not necessarily ours, but the second key is to connect in your community. Connecting in your community, it doesn't mean going out with a business card and saying, hey, I've created this practice, send clients to me. At Southeast Psych, when we say connect with community, It's not marketing. It's going to people that you want to serve, people that you legitimately care for, and serve them. Meet with them and find out how can you know them better, how can you meet their needs. I'll give you an example in Charlotte. One of the communities that I care a great deal for is the Jewish community in Charlotte. And I reached out to some folks in the community and our Charlotte Jewish Day School and said, how can I serve you? And over time, they entrusted me to provide some trainings and do some testing for them. But I'm not there saying, will you send me clients? I'm saying, I care about what you're doing. How can I help you? And it's not always met with, I trust that what you're saying is legit. You have to really prove yourself to them. And that's this connect relational component that it's so important and builds trust and builds relationships. And people see that you are actually trying to help them. And in turn, they may help you, they may not, but it's a way of you engaging your community. The second part, and at least for psychologists and possibly other professionals, this whole social media thing, it's a new and different world. And we've spent the last year or so really kind of trying to figure this out with our director of social media, Becky Thompson. And by social media, it can mean a number of things, but we've focused on Twitter and Facebook and blogging. In the mission of Southeast Psych, or our sort of tagline is psychology for all. And we want to give psychology away, getting psychology out to the masses. And one way to do that is through social media. I'm not sure how comfortable everybody necessarily feels with it, but we had to spend time learning it and figuring out where are the boundaries, what do you share, what don't you share, what's professional versus personal, and making sure you have good boundaries and guidelines about that. But if you want to get the word out about what you're trying to do with your practice and how you're trying to connect both relationally, social media is where we're all headed. And I'd encourage you all to take some time and go through just primers on social media, what it means if there's a local training in your area, connect. And also through a DreamPractice, we can share that information with you as well.
Yeah, we've spent the last year or two really learning about social media and consulting with people who know it well and
Right.
soaking our heads in it and really trying to crack the code on how do you use it well.
That's right.
And so I think we have some things that we've learned through that process.
And it's happened here at the practice, being tweeted and retweeted and connecting
Here
with
at the
people
conference,
here
yeah.
at the conference from across the country, people with similar interests. And it's been truly amazing how we have connected with people.
Yeah, and one thing to underline what you said is that a lot of what you're talking about isn't just the traditional marketing of go hand out something.
Right.
It is really authentic connections.
Yes.
It's really in your community making those authentic connections, and it's also making these connections on a bigger scale through the social media.
Legitimate relationships, and when you are connecting with the community, one of the things that we've learned in connecting is you don't. This is kind of the purple cow thing. You don't go out and say, "Hey, I do individual, family, and group therapy." Well, of course you do. You know, you're a therapist. That's what everybody does. They're not wanting to know that. They're wanting to know, can you impact their lives? Can you improve their lives? Or, in our case, provide some fun. And in connecting with the community, you can communicate that to them.
So our third key to building your dream practice is you need to give killer presentations. And we have hired some outstanding communicators in our practice, some people that just by their nature give killer presentations. But we have a lot of other people that haven't had experience because they've come up through grad school and they've not had opportunity. And it's something that you can learn to do. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the keys if you're going to be good at this job is to be able to be a good communicator in a variety of settings, whether it's on video, whether it's in front of a small group, a big group, or individually. And when you communicate in a presentation to a bigger group, my encouragement to you, and there's a lot to be said about this, so I'm just going to give you three things. You want to start with a good hook.
Right.
You want to start with a story that grabs somebody, or a statistic that shocks someone, or a visual that grabs somebody's attention. You always want to start with a great hook. And then you also want to end with a bang. So before you give a presentation, you always want to know how you're going to start and how you're going to end. And that's one of the keys to giving a killer presentation is starting off strong and ending strong. You know the whole primacy and recency effect.
Right.
That's what you want to do. You want people to have their first impression of you being, okay, this guy's got great content, he knows where he's going, he knows what he's doing, and then you also want to have a great ending where they leave there with a takeaway and they really feel like it's really hit them. You want to use good visuals. Today we're using a program called Prezi, which is a new kind of software package.
It's amazing.
It's fantastic. And we've gone from PowerPoint and Keynote and Prezi. Sometimes we have visuals that you literally bring in, but presentations should include some good visual stuff that hooks people in. Because what you're trying to do, and Craig Pullman will testify to this, is you want to really speak to all kinds of learners, people that learn through what they hear, people that learn through what they see, people that learn through even hands-on or interactive things.
It's like yesterday Zimbardo talking about the TED Talks and TED.com, that those presentations are 18 minutes, I think, and they've spent hours and hours and hours of production time working on that presentation so that 18 minutes of information is packed, visually stimulating, the sound is great, and it's a punch of information, and you walk away remembering it.
And the last thing that I want you to learn today about giving a killer presentation is that you want to connect with your audience. And what that means is that you want to present in a way that's not just talking at people, but like you're interacting with people and where you're having a conversation. It could be 4 people in the audience, it could be 400 people in the audience, but you want them to leave there feeling like you are talking to them and you're having a conversation with them. That's something that I think Frank does very well. Other people in our practice like Trey Ishii and Craig and others do a fantastic job of making people feel like they are connecting with them personally, that they have a relationship with that person. And that's one of the big keys to giving killer presentations and building your dream practice.
Fourth key, find your niche. This was critical in the development of my personal practice, but also Southeast Psych as a whole. And just 3 quick points here. In finding the thing that you are best at, what's your hedgehog? And I believe it was the book Good to Great. What's the hedgehog best at? It's digging a hole. And if the hedgehog was to be doing something other than digging a hole, it would not be at its best. When I give presentations and I have to go through, points and statistics and PowerPoint slides, I am not at my best. I'm a storyteller, and if I can sit down and share information via story, then I'm at my best in the presentation. But when clinicians come into the practice or people are figuring out how do I develop my dream practice, we encourage them to think, what's your hedgehog? Where can you drill down to be your best? Rather than saying, I work with ADHD and depression and this and that and everything. Again, you're sort of being a general person. You're not a purple cow. And as I've developed my practice, I've found that my hedgehog is working with kids who are on the spectrum, Aspies, high-functioning autism. And when I've spent my time on that hedgehog, I have developed my dream practice. So knowing what you're best at and spending your energy on what you're best at, very important in finding your niche. Second part, be willing to say no to referrals. We have sort of a phrase that I use called the rising tide raises all ships. It's a long-term phrase, but that be willing to, when a referral comes through and it's not fitting your niche, or I get a referral for major depression or something like that, that's not what I'm best at. I have to be okay to say no to that. But when I'm also saying no to that, there's somebody else in my practice or somebody else in the community that is their hedgehog. So I'm able to share that referral with somebody else and then connect with them, again, relationally. It all kind of blends together. So be willing to say no to referrals. And finally, 10,000 hours to be an expert. I mentioned earlier that I love Aspies. And Aspies, by their nature, can hyper-focus and do something longer than anybody else on Earth, as you can see at Legos, Star Wars Legos. And if you're able to drill down on something for 10,000 hours, you make that hedgehog your thing, and you, with your therapy with young men, your book, and just that's your hedgehog, that's what you do, you become the best in the world at it, or one of the best. And if you're able to make that name for who you are or who your practice is, then you've got your dream practice. You're doing what you love. You're the hedgehog digging a hole.
Right. And this is going to sound a little contradictory, but in some ways, when you're first starting off, you might say, yeah, I'll take
Sure.
a variety of referrals. But as you go, you want to continue to funnel down and get
That's
very,
right.
very specialized so that you are taking the referrals that you're best at.
That's right.
Because everything's going to work then. You're going to be really good at it, and you're going to be known for that. And when potential referral sources think of you, they're going to think of that.
That's right.
Or when they think of that issue, they're going to think of you. And so when I think of our practice, for example, if someone has a middle school age kid that has social skills problems, they're going to think of Frank Gaskell.
Right.
Someone with auditory processing problems, they're going to think of Barry Morgenstein.
That's right.
Someone that needs assessment for learning, Craig Pullman.
Right.
Or ADHD, Trey
Trey
Ishii,
Ishii, yep.
eating disorders, Lauren King, and
That's right.
so on and so on. We can just go on. And among our 30 plus clinicians, those people are going to just pop. The people
Yeah.
that have been most successful when a potential referral source has someone come around that has that particular issue, your little avatar is
Yeah,
going to
just
light
go
up in their
blink.
head. So that's going to be absolutely key for building your practice is you start with a bigger funnel, but you're going to funnel down into what you're best at.
That's right.
That's right. So it's a key piece to building your practice to get really good at something and continue to get better and better at it and really take those referrals.
Find your niche.
Find your niche. Okay. The fifth key to building your dream practice is think abundance. And this is a biggie. And this is something that a lot of psychologists don't think about or
Right.
don't have this mindset. Years ago, we were hiring someone who was very well known and well regarded and was in kind of the assessment field.
Right.
And he said to me, well, if I come to Charlotte, whose business am I taking away?
Right.
Like who's my competition in town? Who am I taking business away
There's
from?
not a slot in my brain where that works.
And I said, that's not how we think about it. We think about that there's plenty of business. It's just a matter of putting yourself out there, having a good product, being kind of the one that's known the best. And there's what we know about mental health care in general or any kind of helping profession broadly is that fewer people get help than need it. In other words,
Of course.
it's not the majority of people that need mental health care or therapy or assessment or whatever that actually end up getting it. There's still plenty of people that either don't know where to go or can't quite get over the hump or that kind of thing. So we really encourage people to not think in terms of scarcity, like you come into a market and you got to throw elbows and you got to kind of carve your way in there, but more like think abundance. There's plenty of work for everybody.
Right.
And so don't worry about your neighbor. We've had practices, this has happened 2 or 3 times, where we've had people who want to start a practice in Charlotte, and we've said, come on in,
right.
meet with us, we'll tell you what we've done. You can meet with our business staff, you can see how we do billing, you can see how we do scheduling, you can see how we have set the whole thing
Yeah.
up. We have a very open hand about that because we are more collaborative than we are competitive because we feel like if we're doing a good job, there's plenty of room for all of us.
Yeah, the competition side, it's not competition.
So don't worry about your neighbor.
No.
Don't get your head in this scarcity model where
no.
there's only a limited slice of the pie, where there's only a limited amount. Think big, think abundance, get out there, do your best stuff.
The insurance piece of the practice.
Go ahead.
What do you want when we think abundance, when Dave and I first started thinking about Southeast Psych, there were some people who basically told me that we would go out of business because one of our initial premises, not only on the culture piece of to have fun and be innovative, but we don't take insurance. We're out of network, period.
No managed care.
No managed care.
At all.
No panels, none of it. And I'd say we have high average to some of the higher fees that you'll run into. Dave and I have wait lists. People, unfortunately, it's hard for them to get in to see us. Our schedules are full every week.
I turned down 4 out of 5 referrals that I get.
I got, last week, I got 17 new referrals. And I had to say no to most of them. And the reasons behind that is we found our hedgehog, but we don't think scarcity, we think abundance. And it's been an exciting practice because of it.
That's absolutely true. And last point around this about thinking abundance is something that psychologists seem to have a really hard time with is this idea that it's okay to make money. For a lot of people in their training, it feels like it's somehow wrong or that your motives are impure if you're thinking about making money. And for us, it's like, look, you can do really good work, help a lot of people, do lots of good stuff, and make good money.
Yeah.
And so get your head around this idea that it is okay to make money.
Right. I mean, it's okay for a pediatrician to make money.
It's okay for a
It's
pediatrician
okay
to make
for
money.
a psychologist. It's
okay
okay
for
for a speech therapist.
An oncologist.
I mean, we're helping people.
That's right.
And you do that authentically and legitimately, but you can also make money.
That's right. So for whatever reason, psychologists, I think by the nature of our work and us being
Sure.
compassion-oriented, which is awesome, we have this idea that if you make money that somehow your motives are wrong, or that not if you make money, but if that's your intention.
Right.
If your intention is we're going to start a business that makes money, that somehow kind of corrupts your motives and your intentions. Look, do great work, make good money, it'll all be good. Think abundance. That's the fifth key.
That's right. Key 6, always innovate. And I love this. Who's the author of Blue Ocean Strategy?
I can't recall.
Can't recall. But his Blue Ocean Strategy, I recommend that you read through this book. It changed the way I thought about building a dream practice as well. But what was the example about circus and Cirque du Soleil?
Right,
You want
yeah.
to talk a little bit about
Well,
that?
the circus industry had a traditional model, and it was kind of Ringling Brothers, and then there were regional circuses that were similar, and there were certain things that were always true in a circus. You had multiple shows or rings going on at once, you had animal acts, you had concessions, you had a certain kind of feel to the thing,
Right.
and that was what a circus meant.
Right.
And then Cirque du Soleil came in, and they're still within the circus industry, but they blew that whole thing up. They had one main act that had a theme. It appealed to adults.
Right.
It wasn't in a kind of a carnival barker atmosphere. It had high production values around the aesthetics. And so it was still fully within the circus industry, but it was a completely new thing.
Right.
And that's what they're talking about with Blue Ocean, is that you're still within an industry, but you're thinking about it in such a wide open way that it taps into area that hasn't been tapped into
That's
before.
right. The innovation in terms of my hedgehog and Asperger's, I run Aspie camps, and I think about Asperger's in a very different way in terms of positives and strengths. And it's still therapy, it's still social skills groups, but it's done in such sort of a different way and thought about differently that it's highly sought after. And so thinking Blue Ocean, I remember, Dave, I remember the day you told me, you said, I'm thinking for the practice, we ought to have a coffee bar. And my brain just went, like it just sort of quit. And I'm like, why would we have a coffee bar in the practice? And the more I kind of thought that through, it was, okay, in our waiting area, we have a bookstore called Insomnia Coffee and Books. We give coffee and tea and lemonade, and soon we're probably going to be giving away all kinds of other stuff, so that people, when they walk in, the waiting room isn't a waiting room. It's with the sliding glass door and fill this form out and do this thing. We have a hostess that greets you and spends time with you. How can this experience be more fun and more comfortable?
Here's
it's like
coffee.
walking to a family room.
Here's coffee,
Yeah.
here's lemonade.
Yeah, we have the Olympics playing. It's unbelievable, and it's very Blue Ocean. There's nobody else out there that we're aware of that's doing that. And so, there's another purple cow, and it looks like a fun cow. I'm going to hang out with that cow. So always innovate. Think Blue Ocean, and your version of innovating in terms of your dream practice. It doesn't have to be the way we see it, but think different. Think outside the box. Read the book Blue Ocean. The second key to innovating is legitimately seek feedback. We're not talking outcome studies, and this means ask your staff, ask your clientele to give you feedback on your space, on your performance, on everything that's happening, so that you can continue to get better. And there may be some ideas out there that you haven't thought of that you can incorporate. You don't necessarily need to act on all those ideas, but one of the important parts of seeking feedback is once you get that feedback, then show that you've heard it by doing something about it. And then people see you being responsive, relational, you're innovating. Key 6, always innovate.
We have a highly innovative practice, and we could go on and on about this, but we have incredible innovation going on. When you first walk in the door in our practice, there's a production studio there. That's the first thing that you see.
Movie studio. It's crazy.
And then you walk around and there's a coffee shop and a bookstore.
Darth Vader.
There's Darth Vader.
Who will be out today.
There's all kinds of cool looking stuff. There's art. There's caricatures of us as superheroes.
On our walls, we have movie posters all around the interior of the office.
So we've innovated the physical space, but also we've innovated clinically, where we have groups that no one else is doing.
That's right.
We, Dr. G here has all his ASPE groups that are wildly popular and very full. You have camps.
We have model building group where I teach guys how to do the old school build plastic models, and through that they develop friendships. But it's not your traditional let's sit down and do our circle. And
we had a rock band group where some guys were interested in
and had a concert.
Right, they were interested in music and being part of a band, that they met together and they worked on their songs, and then we had a concert in the courtyard outside of our building, and 40 people were there for this.
It was amazing
concert. It was really fun. We have innovative groups, innovative camps. We have innovative ideas. We have a publishing house. We have, in other words, don't just get locked into this traditional model of you do your 50-minute session or you do your assessment that is, this set battery, and that's all you do. Now, I'm not saying that's bad stuff, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it. I'm just saying one of the things that keeps a practice vibrant and alive is to have this kind of incubator of innovation where stuff is happening all the time, where people are coming up with ideas, and you have this sort of can-do mindset where it's like, we can do that. Like, if it fits the mission of the practice, we're going to support it, we're going to go for it.
I mean, the idea of what Southeast Psych is, making, make psychology fun. How can psychology enhance your life and be fun? That's in my mind, that's pretty innovative. It's something new, it's something different. And we're speaking to culture, the culture of psychology, the culture of the field of psychology. On one level or another, that's sort of what Southeast Psych is trying to do, is to change that culture a little bit.
That's right. Even us being here filming at APA.
That's right.
We're here in a little studio, essentially.
I got in trouble here at APA.
I already got in trouble. But we have, lights and cameras and couches and all kinds of things, and we have attracted a crowd and have Philip Zimbardo that
I know,
asked
Zimbardo.
to
What's
say
up with that?
He'd like to be interviewed, and we, of course, love that. And
Yep.
so it's this idea of just doing things that are new, innovative, and for us, fun.
Right.
Things that just other people aren't necessarily doing, but that just bring a lot of joy and a lot of fun. So that's one of the big keys, is always innovate. Okay, the last key to building your dream practice is surround yourself with excellent people. This is absolutely key for you. And we're talking at all levels in all ways, whether it is your front office staff, whether it's other clinicians, whoever you're working with, you want to make sure that you're surrounding yourself with really top-notch people. I look around here and we have about, I think, 16 people or so that have come with us from our practice.
That's right.
About half of the folks from our practice have come, which is
amazing.
Amazing. Half of the clinicians is outstanding. And I look around and I'm just like, these are outstanding people. They are people that do amazing work. They are hard workers. They're on top of their game. And that's what you want to do. When I look at our clinicians, go down the hall, I'm like, that person is the best person in town at that particular specialty. That's what I want. That, to me, brings me great pride to surround myself with people that are better than me. And so,
not hard to do with me.
That's right, not hard to do. But you want to develop and surround yourself with the best people that you can. And here's another key part of that is not only do you want to surround yourself with these people, you want to make sure that the people you surround yourself with are people that match your mission and your values.
Right.
So for us, the mission and values, the mission is to put psychology into the hands of as many people as possible. We want people that get that. We also have a value of fun and innovation and healthy relationships and excellence. We want to make sure that we hire people that get that and that are in line with that sense of, like, we want to have fun, we want to do innovative things. It's absolutely imperative that you surround yourself with people that line up with what you're doing and get it.
We went all the way to San Francisco, California, to APA 2009, I guess, to try and hire 5 psychologists. And we went out there and we met one that seemed to fit the bill.
Yeah, one.
One.
Out of all the
Out
people
of
that were there.
Thousands. And he didn't really want to leave San Francisco. So we came all the way back to Charlotte thinking, now what? And one of our fun, weird YouTube videos was up describing the practice. There was a comment posted on the video that said, "Ha ha, you guys are funny psychologists." And I replied back, and it was Dr. Molly Wittig. And she said, "I'm a psychologist in town." And again, earlier point, connecting with the community. I said, "Well, why don't you come visit with us?" Again, fun. The 4th Wednesday of every month in our practice, we close the place down, order out food for everybody, and watch a movie or play a game together. That's just all we do. I invited her to come to our fun day, Fun Wednesday. She came in, sat down, and I think I made a joke, which she replied back to some kind of a joke. It was very clear she was fun. She was obviously excellent because she had a good reputation in the community. And I looked over to Dave and I said, "I think we need to hire her." And he said, "Go ahead." So I said, "Molly, come on." And we walked out in the hallway and I said, "Do you want to work here?" And she said, "Yes." That was it. She was excellent, she was fun, and unfortunately she's moving to New Zealand.
Right. But it was a good ride.
But it
for
was a
about,
good ride.
3 or 4 years.
4 or 5 years.
Yeah,
She's
right.
the author, again, innovation, author of the Princess Guide.
That's right.
She just published a book about how to kind of bring up strong young women.
That's right. So we make it a point to hire great people. We, on a weekly basis, get people that inquire about working for us. This happens every week.
Every
I get
week.
A cover letter or a resume or an email inquiry. And for us, it needs to be somebody that not only is the best at what they do or could be the best at what they do,
Could be.
but also really fits us, like has that sense of fun, is going to
Right.
be an innovative person. It really fits our values. So whatever the values are that you lay out, whatever the mission is that you lay out, make sure that you hire around that you hire around your mission and your values. That's absolutely key. And when they come in, after you've hired them, make sure that you mentor them, make sure that you develop them. Frank is really, for our practice, the director of mentoring and marketing. He meets with many of our therapists on a weekly basis to mentor them on building their practice, developing their practice. That's been absolutely key to making this whole thing work.
That's right.
So make sure you hire well, then develop, and then mentor and develop. Absolutely key. That's the 7th key. Surround yourself with excellent people, and then once you do, make sure you develop them. Okay, so those are the 7 keys, and we're starting a business called A Dream Practice, and if you go to adreampractice.com, then this video will be up eventually. And
You can follow us on Twitter as well.
You can follow
Again,
us
social media.
on Twitter, social media, and over the next few weeks, months, years, we're going to be developing materials. Each of these points we're going to develop and elaborate on. We're going to have more consultation. We're going to have conferences. We're going to have other materials that people can have. A book is to come. So we want you to stay in touch with us. Go to adreampractice.com. All you have to do is give your first name and your email address, and we'll send you free stuff. And if you want to opt out at any point, you can do that. We're not going to flood you with a bunch of spam. You can get the free stuff, and then you can opt out if you want, or if you want to keep in touch with us, we'd love for you to do that. So go to adreampractice.com, stay in touch with us. This has been the 7 keys to developing your dream practice. I'm Dave Verhagen, along with,
I'm Frank Gaskell.
and we hope that you stay in touch.